Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 236 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes. I'm going to toss it across the screen to my co-host, Mr. Nick Manella. What's going on, my friend?
What up, boys? First beanie pod of the season because it is cold as balls here efficiently, but luckily it's Maryland, so it's going to be 85 next week.
Yeah, I feel like we just skipped right over fall, straight to winter. Christmas trees are jingling, and I think we had snow against
A little
the
bit.
Eagles at M&T Bank Stadium the other day. Don't ask me about that. Gonna toss it across the screen to my other co-host up in Wisconsin, who probably doesn't want to hear anything about cold weather down here, Mr. Mac Vogel. What's going on?
How we doing? Yeah, I had a kind of a busy bender weekend. We had a wedding. One of my good friends got married this weekend in Little Chute, Wisconsin. It's kind of near Appleton, not too far from Green Bay. But yeah, it was a great time. Saw some friends, many of who no longer live around here, so that was awesome. Definitely drank a lot, partied hard. That was great, but holy shit, was it cold. It was like 10 degrees and then like add in wind chill too. I had to get gas like right before I got into town there. And when I was pumping the gas, I was like, this could kill me if I was out here for like 10 more minutes. Like it was so unbelievably cold. But it was cool. Checked out a couple of really funny dive bars in that little town after the wedding too. Immaculate vibes. So
Little Shoot?
Little Chute, yes. And one of the dive bars came complete with a rude bartender, which is how you know it's a good bar.
Hmm,
If they're just
indeed.
like acting like they're not supposed to be serving you drinks, they're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
"Oh, you wanted something? What?
Yeah.
No, I'm
What?
just sitting here.
Right.
I
Great
guess
TV
I'll
for the
get you a
game.
drink." Like we
Yeah.
single-handedly probably made this lady like twice their like Saturday net income by bringing like 15 people in there, and she was like, "Holy
Yes.
shit, this sucks." Like,
It's like if you'll
Yes.
let me back there, I'll go grab my own.
yeah, exactly. Anyway,
Well, sounds like a fun weekend. My weekend was good up until that Ravens game. We're not going to talk about the Ravens too much on this show, but it did come to my attention that I believe they're playing in Lambeau next season. So um, definitely going to have to keep an eye on that.
I might have to finally cross that off my bucket list. I've been dying to go, and yeah, maybe that's the one I finally do it for.
Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure I heard that. It would make sense because I believe they play the Vikings away because we have friends in Minnesota. So that would make sense. It would line up. But, anyways, this isn't a football podcast. You can get your info for that somewhere else. But we are going to talk about the NHL and some league news. But before we do, I know Mac has a word from our sponsor over at DraftKings.
Yes, I do. The 24-25 NHL season still has that new broat smell, and the action is heating up at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. And if you are new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
All right. Well, we know that cold weather is not a issue down in the good old state of Tennessee, but there is something that has gone ice cold in good old Tennessee, and that would be the Nashville Predators. The woes just continue to stack for the Preds. Some frustration boiling over in some post-game comments by Steven Stamkos following their loss to Tampa on Friday, which I'm sure he was extra salty about. But essentially, to summarize a pretty long quote, saying that this team is struggling to score goals. It's frustrating that they're not scoring and that they just got to keep working at it. The typical hockey guy answer. But the Predators rank 31st in the NHL in goals per game. Clearly, there is something wrong here. It's been rumored by Elliot Friedman that the Predators are open for business. What do we think is going to happen with this team? I think we can all say that things aren't going right, but what do you think will happen with this team?
Yeah, well, the only 10 I see is that they are 2, 3, and 5 in their last 10, and that is not gonna cut it. I can't even imagine how Stammer's feeling right now, like just how the Bolts are kind of rolling, more so than the Preds at least. And he's over there, and what everyone thought was gonna be a really strong team has not been that yet. And it's almost to the point where I know for a while we were kind of saying, okay, a lot of new guys, chemistry, they'll figure it out. But it's getting to the point where like I'm not sure they will. Like this is we're past Thanksgiving. This is usually where it's okay to start declaring teams like officially not good or officially very good or what have you. And yeah, unless the Preds can go on a little tear here soon, I don't know. It's never a good thing when you got a guy like Stammer saying stuff like that though.
Yeah, I mean, calling out your team's work ethic, especially as a hockey player, I feel like, yeah, they say this kind of stuff, oh, we just need to work harder all the time. But the way he phrased this, where he goes, you can't afford not to work, I think it's a little bit more of a dig at the team itself. I don't think it's, a bad thing by any means. He's obviously trying to motivate his guys, but at what point are we going to say that this is just a bad hockey team? The whole year we've been saying that this is a hockey team of good players and they're just not playing well, but Mac, I agree with you. We're at the point now where you need to make a decision. If you're just going to try and see this thing out and focus on next year, maybe, I don't know, or are you going to try and shake this thing up even more than you did in the offseason and bring in something? My question is, where do you bring that help in? Because I don't even know where to start with that team right now.
I don't want to pick on someone. Play like we're all, pro player here, I feel like we can say, but man, it has been a pretty brutal kick at the can for Colton Sissons. 2 goals. That's it. It's been 24 games. He's got 2 goals and 0 assists. This is a guy who had 15 last season, 35 points on the year, down on the fourth line right now. The center depth is just clearly lacking at this point. Um, there's a couple guys who maybe hit some home runs last year that aren't hitting it this year. Nyquist probably being one of them, Sissons being one of them. Evangelista, like we're all big Evangelista guys. I feel like we pump his tires more than any other Predator on this pod. We've obviously got the Milwaukee Admiral ties. Hasn't really taken that next step like I think maybe we thought he would. I don't know. I could see the Preds maybe I don't want to say blowing it up, but making some big moves that people didn't see coming.
Well, and I mean, I think the Tomasino move, what was that last week, 2 weeks ago? That's a great sort of first domino to fall there. It's just a question of what comes next. I don't know who they move. Obviously they've got a really, really savvy GM, but yeah, I'm not really sure what you do here.
Yeah, not scoring's not going to help. So we'll see what happens with the Preds, but things are certainly not looking super bright there right now. But something that has turned in someone's favor, Mr. Connor Bedard, he finally snapped his 12-game goalless drought on Thursday. And when asked about the goal, Bedard said, I didn't care how it went in. I would have taken it off the face, which is typical hockey guy answer. So, I feel for Bedard. He's clearly the best player on the Hawks, and he's taken all that fire because of his name, and he doesn't really have any help. I hate
Yeah.
to say it, but
No, he's out there by himself. I mean, it was good to see Taylor Hall bounce back a little bit after getting health bombed last week. So clearly that sort of lit a fire under him. That it's not a good hockey team. Let's be real. It's a hockey team that has some talented players. We got to see them up close. Kurashev, Donato. I think they've been playing fantastic. Obviously, you've got Foligno out there as well. They've got some exciting stuff coming on the back end with Levshinov. He's obviously not there yet, but yeah, I think this team is just going to be one of those things where it's just going to take a little bit of time. It sort of reminds me of Eichel and Buffalo a little bit, except there's a little bit more competent talent around Bedard than Eichel had.
So here's a question for you, and I know I don't love all the super early like Celebrini Bedard comparisons. It's a little premature, but I get it. It's fun to have those discussions. And one question that I do think is kind of a fun exercise that I saw on Twitter is gun to your head, who wins the Stanley Cup first, Celebrini or Bedard?
Ooh,
Celebrini.
I would really like the San Jose Sharks to win a Stanley Cup before the Chicago Blackhawks get another one. So I'm going to go Celebrini.
As would I. Yeah. Well, and you never know. I mean, one could win it with somebody else.
True.
This is true. I mean, Sharks look good. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying that, but like they're dangerous. They've been playing some really good hockey ever since Macklin came back. Greer's
It
done a hell
does
of a
feel
job.
like they have better pieces. I mean, the way that like Toffoli has played for them and the way some of those other guys like Granlund, Zetterlund have played, they've definitely got, at least so far, they've looked like a better team. I mean, it's easy to say. I think the Hawks are literally like last in the whole league right now, but
Yeah.
again, it's early. Just kind of a fun conversation.
They've got the young goalie. I mean, we'll see if it pans out, but that's
That's right.
obviously one of the hardest pieces to get.
Yep.
Speaking of hot goalies, we obviously have to talk about your guys' Washington Capitals. Logan Thompson, maybe Team Canada for Four Nations. We'll see. We'll talk about that a little later in the episode, but give the fellow listeners your guys' thoughts on how the Caps are doing in Ovi's absence so far.
Yeah, after dropping the first two without Ovi, we have won 4 games in a row. A couple of tough ones too, some good opponents. A couple of barn burners, which I'm okay with. Um, I thought they've looked really good. One thing that's been really impressive to me is how the power play has turned it around. This power play looked abysmal to start the season with Ovi even, and I don't have the stat in front of me, but they have skyrocketed from like pretty much dead last in the league to like middle of the pack at this point for power play percentage across the whole league, and that's doing so without Ovi. I thought they had a really nice power play goal the other night. Little set play, bump it inside to Wilson. There's been some
Right in
really
front
good
of me.
looks. Also, Jacob Chikrin. Can we talk about how this guy might have like the best wrist shot in the league? This guy, like I've never seen anybody shoot the puck like that. He
It's insane.
it's like not a snapshot, but it's not a wrist shot. He doesn't pull his stick back whatsoever. So like for that reason, it's kind of a snapshot. But like he literally just has the puck on his stick and just flicks his wrist, and it's like top corner before you even know it happened. It's such a deceptively fast and accurate shot. It's really impressive.
Got those Popeye forearms, dude. He's just like whipping
Seriously.
it.
He's a
Yeah.
big dude, but he has been unbelievable. And, I'm starting to get a little bit nervous now because every time he scores, I just see the money that the Caps are going to have to offer him this offseason going up. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, let's come off the goal scoring heater here a little bit, buddy. Let's help the bank account out.
Yeah, and then we're gonna end up with the freaking Eric Carlson special that the Penguins
Right,
got.
right. So,
Step into my office.
yeah, Mac, I want to go back to your point about the power play. It looks so much better, and Chikrin's a big reason why. I'm typically a big proponent of, hey, let's get 4 forwards on this power play. And, they went with 2 defensemen. They have Carlson and Chikrin at the point. And not only is that great in terms of a distribution and sort of a protecting that blue line or walking that blue line aspect, both of those guys, I mean, Carlson probably has the hardest shot on the Washington Capitals, if not Ovi. I mean, they're both
Right.
around what is it like 103 on average or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you've got Chikrin with this flamethrower, and then like we saw, they're able to work it down low, work it behind the net. You've got Dubois, McMichael, and Willie out there, and Willie looked incredible. I mean, that bang bang play against the Islanders, I was like 4 rows off the ice for that one, and it was just beautiful puck movement,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yep. Excellent stuff. Not to mention the Caps have far and away the most goals scored by any team this year with 101. I think next after that is like 90 or 91. They also have the highest goal differential plus 32. Besides the Jets at 31, nobody's even sniffing that. So impressive stuff. 17-6-1 is the current record as we're recording this right now.
That's fucking crazy.
And Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about.
The goal scoring's up across the board too. Like Charlie Lindgren is scoring goals too, and this is awesome. I mean, he's scoring goals. Capitals are still winning games, so obviously a little sketchy moment in Tampa, but one of my favorite things about that is, it's kind of just a fluke play. Puck bounces, he catches it on the heel of the 2x4 that is a goalie's stick and just kind of hooks it into his own cage. But just loved watching all the players on the ice go right up to him afterwards, give him the pat, say, "Hey, don't worry about it. We got you. We need you right now." And the way the team handled it, in the handshake line afterwards, and then the way Carberry handled it in the room and the post game speech, I thought was just perfect. And it
Dude,
just shows what a team this is.
I hate how much I love carbs because that is the perfect way to handle that. And he did it. And I'm just like, this guy has these guys clicking. And we'll talk. We have a fun little segment later in the show that I think everyone will like listening to. We'll talk about the caps in it. But
And
um,
Chikrin gave him the game, the player of the game,
yeah,
what is it, the bling, and said first NHL tuck.
I do hope they gave him that puck.
Yeah, I hope so too. It's
That would be
funny.
really funny.
The beauty of it is it's one of those things where, a lot of goalies, if that had happened to them, it's something they could maybe laugh at weeks, if not months later. But he gets the easy way out and is able to laugh at it the same night because the boys rallied and got the W, so it didn't matter.
did one of you guys already read the egregious December schedule thing about the
Not yet,
caps?
but
No, that's pretty
schedule makers
tough.
are at it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, very brutal. A rough December incoming in terms of travel and back-to-backs for the Caps. They've got 13 games in the month of December, and 8 of them are back-to-backs. That's wild. It's over half.
It's a lot in
So
December.
yeah, get the CBD oil ready, I guess. Christ, that's a lot of hockey. But
Gonna need it.
any other comments on the Caps before I go on some unhinged spew about how the Penguins might actually be back?
Did we already mention that Ovi was on the ice today? I forget if we said that,
We
but
did not.
probably
In
worth
sweats.
noting. In sweats by himself, did a light skate, but nonetheless, great to see that.
He broke his leg 2 weeks ago and he's skating in sweatpants. That's absolutely insane to me.
Yeah.
But
Only other thing about the Caps I'll add is I've loved how Miro has looked the last couple of games, especially that Islanders game. He was, third and fourth line, aggressive, gritty, chippy, getting in people's faces, making great plays along the wall. Love what I'm seeing out of 63.
Yep, couldn't agree more.
I love what I'm seeing at a number 53 in black and gold, and that would be Mr. Tomasino, the newcomer from the Nashville Predators, and Barry Trotz. Oh, thank you so much because the Penguins are now 3-0 in the Tomasino era, which has been a nice little joke on Penn's Twitter. But I love this guy. I think he actually might be my favorite non-Sid player instantly. He's everything you want. The right hand shot, he's decent sized frame, 2 goals in 3 games, and you can tell. I don't know the name, but there was a Predators reporter who quote tweeted Tomasino's post game after Boston when we won. And he goes, "This guy's a different person. Like in Nashville, he was miserable and never talked to the press. Now he's smiling ear to ear because he's getting playing time with Gino. Man, it's exciting to actually have a young player who can make a difference."
Yeah, the overwhelming stuff I saw following that trade from people in Nashville was that they didn't give him a fair kick at the can when it came to breaking into that lineup. And look, I mean, how many different times has that happened to players trying to make the NHL? There's a finite amount of roster spots and there seems to be an infinite amount of hockey players trying to make it. So sometimes it's just that, sometimes it's the coach, sometimes it's just the camp you have, but sometimes Harry, like you're saying, all this guy needs is just a change of scenery and being put into a role where he's contributing right away.
Yeah, top 6 minutes, PP2 time. I'm loving what I'm seeing, but um, I don't know how to feel, fellas, because do I think that we're a good team? No, we've won 3 in a row. First time since New Year's Eve in 2023 that's happened. So it's been a little bit, almost a full calendar year. But they've won 3 in a row. They look decent. I have hope now, which is not good because that means it's going to be snatched from me. They have a pretty tough schedule coming up. They've got the Panthers, the Rangers, and the Toronto Maple Leafs as their next three games. I would not be shocked if they lost all three of these, and I'm coming back down to earth pretty quickly here. Um, but there's some encouraging signs. Tomasino is one of them. Ricard Raquel, I talked about this guy in the season preview at length. He's got 10 goals on the season, leading the Penguins. He didn't get his 10th goal of the season last year until March, so that should definitely say something about his game this year now that he's fully healthy. And I know I've talked about this guy, and Nick, I know you and I have gone back and forth in years past about Blake Lizotte. Now that he's healthy, he's getting his feet under him. I'm loving what I'm seeing from this guy. He's just a great third line center.
I was kind of expecting this from him at the beginning of the year. Maybe it was just getting acclimated to, the change of scenery or whatever, but clearly he's found his feet, he's found his game, and I think he's such an effective player, especially, third line. I mean, the guy's just built for it. He's
Yeah.
talented enough that he could play up, but I think where his skill set lies, just like grinding people down, going into the corner, getting the puck, and still having the ability to make plays is why he's in the NHL. I mean, that's just him to a T.
It's a water bug. He's, not the biggest guy, but he skates really well, really good hands. That new third line of Bunting, Lizotte, and Bavilier has been really good. So I don't know. Jari has back-to-back wins. The world's probably ending. And Nedeljkovic actually had some solid goaltending against the Flames. So the goaltending's been there. More than anything, I feel like Carlson and Letang are not smoking whatever they were smoking for the first like 2 months of the season, and they're finally on the good shit because they look somewhat
Did you ever figure out
responsible.
what they were on? Because I need to contact that guy. That kind of looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun to be on. If you're a fan, it's not a lot of fun,
Right.
but we'll see. I'm encouraged. I'm not back yet. I'm not back yet. If we win two of the next three, maybe I'll start getting on some unhinged shit. If they win two of the next three games here, then maybe I'll be back on. But they've got Florida, Rangers, Toronto. Win two of those three, and I'll be happy. But it's encouraging to see.
Some good opponents, yeah.
Well, of course, there has to be a little Caps Pens crossover in the schedule because the Caps have the Leafs Friday night, and then the Pens will have them on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting three games for the Pens, but we're actually going to do the fantasy and gambling segment here now. Before we talk about that, just want to remind you guys this is brought to you by Prop Tracker. It's your one-stop shop for all outlier bets from shots, rebounds, receptions, and more. If you download Prop Tracker, you will get your first month free if you use our link, proptrackerapp.com/emptybetters. Once you track the prop that you want, it will update you real time. You don't have to be checking any of your sports books, specifically DraftKings. It'll update you automatically, and it's great. You can find all the prop bets that you need, great data. We're always posting some nice little props that have some value on the EB Twitter page, so definitely be sure to go follow us on Twitter. But we're going to dive into the gambling part right now. So one of the new things that we're going to do, just because our episodes typically release on either a Tuesday or a Wednesday, we're going to kind of dive in a little bit on the TNT games. Since those are always on Wednesdays, kind of gives you guys a little bit of a real-time look as to what we might be thinking is going on that game. So we've actually got two this week, which is great. We've got the Bruins and the Blackhawks as the early game. And then we've got the Kings and the Stars as the late game. Obviously, we don't have odds in front of us yet. We're recording this on Monday night, December 2nd. So any initial thoughts on what we might be seeing in these two games?
Bruins Hawks, maybe not the most exciting matchup on paper, but not that there's many people on either team remaining, but it is a Stanley Cup rematch from many, many years back now. That being said, I think it could be more interesting than meets the eye. I think this is one where the Bruins need to try to continue to trend upward, and this would be a massive loss for them if they somehow are not able to win that game. Kind of one of those games where there's a little bit more pressure because you're playing kind of a bad team and it's on TNT. That you really got to focus up and win that game. And I'm sure from the Hawks' perspective, they'll be looking to continue to get Bedard going and that kind of thing. The late game, I actually think is going to be a terrific game. I'm really excited to watch that one. The Stars and the Kings basically have an identical record right now. Kings are 14-8-3. The Stars are 15-8-0. So 30 points versus 31 in the standings. Kings kind of started the season a little slow, I think, but it has sort of gone on a little bit of a tear. They are sorry, no, they are 6-4-0 in their last 10. But yeah, should be a good game. I'm definitely going to tune into that one. Trying to decide who I think is going to win. Maybe stay tuned on our socials and I'll give you guys an official pick day of.
Yeah, that one's really interesting. I would not be surprised if that's a playoff series over the next sort of couple of years. So keep your eye on that. I'd love to see that turn into a little bit of a rivalry because both of those teams are just so much fun to watch. I think the thing that people kind of forget about LA is they do have decent goaltending when it's on. I mean, it is still Darcy Kemper. The guy still won a Stanley Cup. And then I don't know who's their backup. I mean, does anyone know off the top of their head?
Big save,
That's
or
right. It
I
is
think.
large stoppage, David. That is a massive amount of stoppage between Kemper. He's a big guy, and then obviously big save Dave. So there's a lot going on there between the pipes for the Kings. I'm still gonna go Stars on this one. Surprise, surprise. It's one of my favorite teams to watch. They're such a fun team to put money on. I love just picking them and just picking like Stankoven one night, Johnson the other night, Hintz one night, Robertson the other night, because it seems to just kind of like work 2 out of 3. And I think that's a great way to make those games interesting.
It's a great point, Nick. It's also a tactic our buddy Puck Picks has been using. You just stack a parlay for line mates. You just pick 1 point, parlay the line mates, Duchesne, Sagan, some of those guys. That's been a hot one. Um, yeah, the Bruins Blackhawks yawn a little bit, right? Like Bruins will probably be minus 250 or something outrageous like that. For Kings Stars, we do have LA at home. I know the Stars are taking on Utah the night we're recording this, and I believe they were minus 140 favorites on the road in Utah. So Kings a little bit of a better team than Utah. I'd probably say Stars will be maybe a buck 30, minus 130, somewhere in that range. Pretty similar in the standings. I'm going to be honest, Mac, when you read that, I was a little shocked. I thought the Stars would be a little farther ahead, but I don't know. Maybe I'll dabble Kings. We'll see. I'll tweet it out on the Twitter the day of, and we'll do a nice little preview for the TNT games. But we're gonna move on to some player props to keep track of, some team trends, some fun stuff here. So Kent Johnson on CBJ spent some time in the A last year, and I think even a little bit this year. He has a point in every game he's played in this season. So needless to say, I don't think he's going back down to the A anytime soon.
Fantasy steal of the year, gentlemen.
Yeah, that one hurts a little bit. Especially since I lost by 1 point this past week. I'm not even going to get into that.
Oof.
I was up by like 30 going into Saturday, and then I just got stomped on.
Who'd you lose to?
Yeah, who was it?
Uh, I can't remember who it is, but it's the person in first place. They have like one loss. They're right ahead of you, Mac. It's in the other division.
Oh, is it
Oh, in my division.
I think it might
Yeah.
be Steve Hockey.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was. Yeah,
Steve baseball parentheses hockey.
Correct.
he's
Okay.
like 6-1. That one hurt. But here's a fun little stat. Not sure how you would ever find this out pregame, but if you do, then this is clearly the best gambling trend that you could find. The Utah Hockey Club are undefeated. They're 3-0 when Sergachev wears an A on his jersey. Fun little fact. So if they tweet out the lineups before the games and you see an A next to him, obviously you have to bet Utah because there's something there, right? Kevin Lankinen for Vancouver. This is wild. 10-0 on the road this season. That is crazy. Why? Where did that come from?
Well said. I don't think I could have ever seen that one coming, but that's an unreal thing. I mean, ride the
It,
lightning, right?
in general, the Nucks are 10-2-0 on the road as a team. So that's maybe something to keep your eye on in general when they're away.
Road dogs for the Nucks, and then one last thing for the Nucks. Jake DeBrusk, 8 goals in his last 6 games. I cashed in a nice little ticket there when they were in Boston because obviously a have to revenge game. He was plus 300 that night, and the Bruins usually get a lot of respect from Vegas sportsbooks. So I would say Jake DeBrusk anytime goal scorer is a great value bet. here this week as the Canucks are still plugging away without JT Miller in the lineup. DeBrusk's getting in some good looks. So, by the way, he also has more goals than anyone on the Bruins. So stay hot, Sweeney. That's a good one. Nick, I'll actually let you intro this nice little nugget here that is a little addition to the gambling segment.
Real simple. Who's hot, who's not? It's hot and cold. Let's go with hot. All right. So first up, you get the Leafs. As much as it pains us all to say this, they are 8-2-0 in their last 10. The Caps, Oilers, and Flyers are all 7-2-1 in their last 10. The Minnesota Wild are 6-2-2, and they look really good. It might be because they're getting competent goaltending for the first time in 25 years, but what do I know? I just run a hockey podcast. The Blue Jackets, they're 4-0-2 in their last 6. They're looking a little bit better than how they started the year. Let's go over to the freezer side of things, cold. Calgary and Nashville have both lost 4 in a row. It's hard to rip on Calgary right now, but they are not good. Let's just put it that way. The Preds are 2-3-5 in their last 10, which we stated earlier. That is not good. I don't know how you lose 5 overtime games in the span of playing 10 games, but that's got to burn for the coaching staff. And then the Blackhawks, we know that they're at the bottom of the barrel. They're 3-6-1 in the last 10. So talked about them turning things around against the Bruins. We'll have to see how that goes on Wednesday.
The Leafs 8-2 in their last 10, and all of that is pretty much without Matthews, which is impressive.
Yeah, he's missed the last 9 games.
Yeah, and obviously he returned against Tampa the other night. That Flyers one, dude, Jesus, Mitchkov is on a tear to prove your Stankoven bet off. Like, because they're still neck and neck kind of in the points, and fellow listener TJ Kretz taking you up on that. I saw he tweeted us the bet slip. But man, Mitchkov looks so good.
I still feel good, and mainly the reason I still feel good is because Stankoven basically has a playoffs like worth of experience to go off of too.
Better team, obviously, too, but
Much better team.
Did you guys see that Mitchkov OT winner against, I think it was St. Louis?
Yep.
Nasty. Slow as shit, though. I know Ryan Whitney on Chicklets has been saying that, and people hate him for it. He's not that fast. I can't remember who was chasing him, but they gained ground quick.
Yeah, that was interesting. Hell of a goal still, though.
Absolutely. All right, couple franchise milestones here, and then we'll move on to roster moves, injury updates, and all that good stuff. Quinn Hughes became the franchise leader in assists for defensemen for the Vancouver Canucks, passing Alex Edler. He did it in 537 fewer games, which I can't do math that quick. How many seasons is that?
Many. Numerous, more than one. Let's put it that way.
And he is now only 48 points away from breaking the Canucks record for most career points by a defenseman. He is 25 years old.
That's roughly 6.5 seasons.
That is insane. Yeah, Hughes looks great. I mean, he's coming off the Norris season, and if it weren't for McCarr, he'd probably be front running again.
I saw somebody tweeting about this stat and saying that, barring any crazy injuries or him getting traded, he basically is going to be the best Canuck ever. Yeah. And that's interesting considering the Sedins and all the other greats that have been there. But
I don't
necessarily disagree.
All the drunk BC hockey dads are now screaming at you that Trevor Linden was and will always be the true captain of the Vancouver Canucks. But it's hard to argue with it, man. I'd have to say yes at this point. I mean, like you said, barring some, hopefully unforeseen injuries, if he keeps up doing what he's doing, that's a no-brainer for me.
Looks great. Hoping the Canucks can keep it going here as JT Miller is, out of the lineup. But Jordan Binnington, another franchise milestone. He passed Mike Lutt and became the St. Louis Blues winningest goaltender. 3-0 victory against, a 3-0 victory against the Devils on Wednesday. And it was his 152nd win with the team. So shout out to him. And then the last one, Victor Hedman. This one blew my mind. He is now the Lightning all-time assist leader, past Marty St. Louis. Weird. Didn't think that was a thing, but he has 590 career assists now. St. Louis had the record before that. Just kind of crazy when you think LeCavier, Richards, Stammer, like Kucherov will obviously have that soon enough here, but pretty wild.
It is wild, especially for how long, Vinny and Marty were with that team. I know Richards kind of fell off and went to some other places, but Especially when you think about, that era versus this era in terms of just point production and scoring, it starts to make a little bit of sense.
One of the few franchises that has a defenseman that leads their franchise in assists. I don't have it up in front of me. There's like six other ones, but pretty interesting here. All right, we're going to move on to some trades and roster moves. And what is surely the most earth-shattering trade of the NHL season, the Predators and the Avalanche did a wife swap with their backup goaltenders, uh, a Noonan and Wedgwood, switching places. Thoughts, comments, concerns.
It's sort of like a Spider-Man meme, but just in a trade form. They're like, you're coming over here, I'm going over there. It's kind of weird, but whatever works. I don't know if this is the move that's necessarily going to fix either of these hockey teams, but why
Yeah, I
not?
mean, you basically got one young backup goaltender for a journeyman of a backup goaltender.
Right.
And yeah, I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference for either team. But yeah, I guess maybe sometimes you just need a shakeup or something. I will say I can't explain this, but Justus Onanen he just is a Nashville Predator to me. Like that just makes a whole lot of sense. And I wouldn't be surprised if he sees some time with the Admirals. He's just got Admirals slash Predators written all over him, and I have no idea how to explain that.
Is
But
it because he's a Finnish goalie?
Finnish goalie, yeah, I was gonna say.
maybe that's why. Maybe in the back of my head, that's why.
Rene, Saros, a Noonan, whatever. Yeah, I agree, Mac. It does just, it's like, yep, that makes sense. Like, sure. And then the Columbus Blue Jackets, they were in a bunch of trade rumors. I apologies if I pronounce this incorrectly. I listened to it on another podcast before, so I made sure I pronounce it right. David Jurek, is that right? Jurek?
Jiricek.
Jiricek. Sorry, I can't read. Um, he was traded from Columbus to Minnesota for Damon Hunt, a conditional 25 first, third, and fourth and 26, and a second and 27. Jiricek was CBJ's first round pick, six overall in the 22 draft. So a little change of scenery here. Another young guy who maybe was a little bit of a misfit going out the door. I know the Penguins were definitely in trade talks for this. Um, I don't know, kind of costs a lot in my opinion, but
He's supposed to be a pretty damn good player, so I mean,
Oh
we'll
yeah.
see how this shakes out. But yeah, that's a steep price, but from what I've heard, rightfully so.
Yeah, he had some monster World Junior performances for Czechia, but I mean, Harry, you nailed it. It's expensive. This is what it costs to get the defenseman I drafted high in the draft now. Every defenseman that's drafted in the top 20, you can say blue chip prospect defenseman, you're coughing up, players, a first, couple seconds, and then whatever else I say, and people seem willing to pay for it. I do love this move for the Wild. I think their decor in a couple of years is going to be one of the best, if not the best in the NHL. So, little bit of a weird deal, but I think it works out for many in the end.
we're going to talk about the Wild a little bit more here in a second. But before we get to that, just one last injury update. We already kind of mentioned it earlier. Matthews back in the lineup. I know when he was over in Germany, everybody's probably heard about that. There was some speculation like what is really going on, and I think that was like 2 weeks ago. Was back in the lineup. He returned against Tampa. And the Leafs went 7-2 in his absence. So shout out to them. Oh, Nick, sorry, you go.
Yeah, I think this was a situation for those that don't know or don't remember. Matthews played his, hockey prior to coming to the NHL in Zurich. So this is a doctor he has been seen by before and I think just felt comfortable with. And, for his situation where the injury starts, in preseason and then gets progressively worse as you get into November, that's something that you want to take care of right away. So I think this was something where you just go with the guy you know and have had good experiences with in the past.
It's a great point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that actually makes a lot more sense as to why that happened. I'm surprised more people on Twitter weren't mentioning that, but
Got a lot of dumbass keyboard warriors out there, so
Oh yeah.
this is true. Well, we're going to move on to the discussion portion of the episode with a fun little segment here coming. But before we do, I know Nick has a word from our sponsor, Gametime.
Absolutely, I do. You guys know there's nothing like watching hockey live, the chill of the ice, the sound of the puck, and screaming for your favorite team. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Using their super deal, I got my Caps tickets for this week on Game Time, and now you can too. Game Time's deals make it easy to find the best prices on the best seats, and you can even see a panoramic view from your seats before you pay. Game Time's all-in pricing shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
All right, we're going to play a little fact or fiction. We are in the beloved month of December in the NHL season. And as Mac mentioned earlier, at this point in the year, you kind of know what you're going to get for the most part. There's obviously a few exceptions, aka the St. Louis Blues infamous 2019 run. But I want to ask you guys, I'm going to name some teams. I'm going to read to you where they are in the standings currently. And if you believe that they will stay relatively the same or maybe even jump up in the standings, you will buy. If you think that they're frauds or, there could be some drastic movement, like let's say the Predators, then you can sell if you think they'll maybe tank even more. But if they're going up and staying good, buy. If they're going down, staying still or going down, we'll go with sell. Make sense? All right.
Bye.
Let's Well, the first team I was going to have is the Washington Capitals. I would probably say this is maybe the most surprising or maybe second most surprising team in the league so far. They are first in the Eastern Conference. You buying this or you selling?
Can I abstain?
Um, sure, why not? Yeah.
I'm buying, and it's unsurprising to me. I told everyone this team would be good.
I'll go with the buy
I
as well.
I want to sell so bad, but I would be dumb to do that, especially considering what they're doing without Ovi. I think Carberry is a great coach. I'm gonna buy. I definitely think this team is gonna be top three in the Metro Division. I don't think they're gonna be having to do any wild card shit this season.
I will say I don't anticipate them staying atop the East. I think a couple teams will catch them there.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to the next team. Another surprising first place team in the West, the Minnesota Wild. We've had a lot of choice words about this franchise over the years, but they are tied for first in the entire NHL and tied for first in the West. Buying or selling?
That's tough.
I'm gonna sell just because I think they're obviously a playoff team, which I don't even know if I would have said that going into the season. Um, I don't think they'll win their division. I don't. So I will say sell.
I'm gonna buy cautiously, but it's mainly just down to how Philip Gustafson has been playing.
Yeah, he's been probably my best draft pick easily in my fantasy draft. I'm gonna buy. I also think Kaprizov is just doing some wild and shit out here right now. He looks incredible.
He's kind of having like the Kaprizov-esque season that we thought was going to happen last year or the year before. I know he had some injuries there, but this is what I think we can expect from him going forward, at least hopefully, because then they're watchable.
All right, we're gonna get two to three more teams and then we'll move on. But we've got some fringe teams coming here. This is maybe a little less obvious. The Philadelphia Flyers. They are currently the wild card two team ahead of the Lightning, the Jackets, the Sabres, the Islanders, the Penguins, the Wings. Do you think the Flyers can hold on to one of those playoff spots in the wild card spot?
Sell,
Why?
because it's the Flyers.
Sell because they still don't have a goalie, and Michkov can have a great season if he wants to, but that goaltending, it's going to be at best, you get a couple good games from one of them in a row. There's not going to be any sort of like month-long consistency to that, and that's what you need to nail down a playoff spot.
We should do a YouTube piece on just all the different ways the Flyers have ruined goaltenders because it's actually fascinating.
It really is. Especially when they go in to be general managers for the rival team. Uh, I am also going to sell. I'm fully on board with Mac. The goaltending, I'm not sold yet. They've allowed the third most goals in the Eastern Conference. I think Torts knows how to get the most lemon juice out of a lemon, if you will, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. All right, this next one should be really fun. The St. Louis Blues. They are currently 4 points out of the wild card two spot, currently held by the Calgary Flames. We all know the coaching swap that they did. So, with that, what are we thinking? They're currently, like I said, 4 points out of a wild card spot. The two teams in front of them who are not a wild card team yet are the Avalanche and Utah.
Sell, not making the playoffs.
I'm gonna have to agree, but I think if they don't make it this year, they will next year if they keep Montgomery. I really like him for that team. I think that's a great fit. I just think that there's two or three giant holes in this lineup that are gonna keep them out.
Hmm. I'm gonna buy. I think the teams below them are definitely worse than them. The teams in front of them who are in that wild card spot, I think they're a little more complete than some of them. I think they're a more complete team than Utah. Maybe that's a hot take. I think they're more complete than Calgary. They're gonna have to probably beat out. They're probably gonna have to beat out the Colorado Avalanche, which I don't know if they can do, but I'm gonna buy. I think they're either wild card two or they're like the first team to miss, maybe.
I would feel a lot better about this team if they had a consistent, competent goaltender that didn't try and fight people.
Has he been bad this year? I honestly
No, like
don't.
I mean,
Okay.
he's been, I think,
You just think he's
average
a
at
head case.
best. Well, I don't necessarily even think he's a head case. I would just say I think his play's been average at best, but considering the lineup around him, I don't think that's too far off.
All right, last team currently not in the playoffs. They are 1 point out. Um, Kind of showing a little bit of lack of depth. I think we all talked about that, but the Tampa Bay Lightning.
I'm gonna buy. I've seen them like absolutely eviscerate a couple opponents this year. They shut the Caps out 3-0 early on in the season. They destroyed the Bruins a little while ago. I forget what the score what of that was. It was like 5-1, 6-1 or something ridiculous like that, but they're still talented enough to completely dismantle teams into the postseason.
Yep, they've got a decent goal differential. We all know they can stop the puck. We know they've got scoring power. I think they'll be a playoff team again. We might see them fall to a wild card, which is something we're not as used to the last several seasons, but I do think they're a playoff team.
I'm
And
also going to buy.
I don't even think they'd be worried about sneaking in as a wild card. I think as long as that
No.
team gets in, they're like, we've
Yeah.
done this before. We
Yep.
we have guys that we brought in that have done it with other teams before. So
Yep.
Yeah, I'm buying. I think they'll be fine. I don't think they're necessarily a tier one contender, but I do think that these guys are good enough to make the playoffs.
yeah.
Well, that is your Fact or Fiction segment, quarter way of the season edition. Hope you all enjoyed. Let's chat some rumors. The next two topics, we've got some, well, actually, the rest of this is all rumors. So uh, let's get cracking to making up some shit. Mikko Rantanen, it is believed that he could secure a record-matching 14 million AAV deal if he tests free agency next summer per Pierre LeBrun. Would you pay Mikko the big ticket?
So I was chatting with our good buddy Nick Bowens about this when we were at the Caps Islanders game, and he made a great point. And he said, with the cap potentially going up 9 million, absolutely, this guy could get that. I mean, if you think about what 9 million can do to a roster, that's essentially one more superstar you've got playing for you, or one more up and coming superstar. But I personally don't know if I could justify paying $14 million a year for Mikko Rantanen. I think he's an incredibly talented player. I think he's got one of the most lethal combination of skill sets between size and talent that you can get in the NHL. I mean, he's sort of like a mix between a skill guy and a power forward because he's just got all of it. But $14 million is a lot of money. I would have a hard time as a GM forking that over. And I'm not really sure what teams he would want to go to in free agency could offer that.
Yeah, I'm a lot more like the Lou Lamoriello when it comes to this kind of stuff. I always say no for would I pay this guy this ass ton of money. But just all things considered in the climate of the league and what other guys get, like I don't think it would be unheard of, and I maybe would do it if I'm the Avs, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
It is the way it's trending. I mean, it's sort of like receiver contracts and quarterback contracts in the NFL. It's just whoever's up next is going to be the highest paid one going forward. So, I think where the, doubt starts to seep in for me, you're looking at it, it's like, okay, are you worth more than McKinnon? Are you worth more than McDavid? Are you worth more than Draisaitl, which was already a little bit controversial. So, it definitely makes you wonder.
I think Mikko Rantanen's awesome. I think he's a phenomenal player. Over the past 2 seasons, I don't have it in front of me. He's got to be top five in scoring. He contract year, and he looks like he's going to do it again. He's probably going to have 300-point seasons in a row. I don't know if this is maybe a hot take. I put him in like that David Pastrnak category. Like I could see them getting a pretty similar deal. They kind of strike me as the same caliber. I'd maybe give even a tiny bit of an upper hand to Miko, but he does play on the Avs, so there's a little bit of avalanche inflation there.
I like that comparison.
But like you look at Pastrnak, and I just pulled it up. He obviously got that big ticket just a season ago. What is it? 11.25. Shit. I mean, yeah, if the cap does go up and stuff, do I think he could get 14? Yeah. Let's play big time rumor boy. I've got 3 teams that I feel like need, well, 2 teams that need this guy. One team who's just always known to be in the mix. You can probably guess who that is, but I'm calling this the big 3 expansion. I think Seattle, Utah, and Vegas. All 3 of those teams would be chomping. Vegas just because they'll find a way to make it work, and we always wonder how they do it. But I think like Utah
Seattle
or
won't.
Seattle,
Seattle
they
won't.
they just need like they don't neither of those teams really have a big time superstar. Like they need someone where they're like, this is our guy, this is the main jersey that's gonna sell, gonna put asses in seats. I I would think that they would probably be in on that.
I think the narrative of Rantanen going, like if you're a Utah fan, of Rantanen going from a very close division opponent, like one state over, to your team, I think would be cool. That would generate a ton of buzz, a ton of hype, probably a ton of jersey sales. But I mean, who's the superstar now for Utah? Keller?
Yeah,
Sergachev?
I mean Keller probably, yeah. I'd say
Yeah.
that's yeah. I just think like Seattle and Utah could both benefit from getting a big name like that, get some energy in the fan base. Mac, you're surprisingly quiet as I'm saying all this.
No, I think you make a lot of sense. I do kind of agree with Nick that I think those teams just tend to not do it. Just they just tend to not go out and get that guy when he's available. But I don't disagree with you that like they could use somebody like that.
Vegas would have to give up a lot
Yeah.
to swing that.
Yeah.
That I only throw them in because you can never count them out. Like it's
Yeah,
just one
that's
of those
fair.
things.
And then Carolina, the Vegas of the East, will try and ultimately not be able to do it either.
Not with how Natchez is playing. They're gonna have that bridge deal come up quicker than I think they realize. But
Right.
should be interesting to see what happens with Miko. Honestly, I'd probably bet he stays in Colorado, if you want
Yeah,
to
he's not
honest.
leaving.
No, I don't think so. Another team with some trade block rumors, the New York Rangers. Elliot Friedman reported last week that the Rangers were open to trade talks regarding Chris Kreider and captain Jacob Trouba. And then later in the week, Mika Zibanejad was also added to that list. We know also, Capo Caco's name has been thrown in there for the past couple seasons. What do we think? Like the Rangers lost 5 in a row and then they beat Montreal over the weekend, but that's not saying much. The team seems to kind of be underperforming, maybe. I guess you could say it's early in the year, but what do you guys think?
They're definitely underperforming to Rangers fans, you know, status quo. I will say Kreider should not even be in this conversation. You cannot trade that guy. He should be a Ranger for life. I think most Rangers fans would agree with me there.
He should have the
Um,
C.
he should have gotten it all along. It should have been him when they gave it to Truba. I've heard that if Truba doesn't get traded, he may get the C stripped. So there's been all kinds of rumors around this team. Hard to tell what's real, hard to tell what's not. Um, if you want my honest opinion, I kind of don't think they're going to move any of these big names. Maybe Kako. Uh, I would be pretty shocked if they randomly traded their captain or Kreider or Zibanejad for money reasons, for other reasons. I just don't see it happening. I think it's a lot of BS right now. I think the team will be fine. I think there's a lot of panic for not a whole lot of good reasons so far.
I agree. I think this is a little bit of smoke and mirrors. I think it's interesting that it was made this public, but they're first in the wild card in the East right now. They're in that number one wild card spot. I don't think they need to completely panic just yet. With, a week could go by and they could be number one in the Metro. 2 weeks could go by and they could be number one in the East. So, and they're a team that's capable of doing that, unfortunately. So, I think it's something where they just gotta reset, find their game, start winning some games, and just go from there. But I don't anticipate them moving the entire core. In fact, if anything, I think the most likely player for them to move is the one they named captain. I think Truba has to be the first name on that chopping block other than Kako, and that's just down to contract reasons at the end of this year.
I 100% agree. I think if one guy goes, it's probably Truba. There would be some bidders. I know the price tag's a little steep, but it's only this season and next season, and after that, you're done. The Mika contract hurts. Uh, Usually this term is used as like degrading, but for this guy, this is what he actually gets paid to do. Power play merchant. I know that gets thrown out around a lot. You know, these guys who can't do shit 5-on-5, but they benefit on the power play. Mika's only got one power play goal this season. I feel like he gets paid to just pump in power play goals.
Rough start
Um,
to the year for him for sure.
yeah, last year he had 12 power play goals. The year before that, he had 20 power play goals. So they need him to get going. He's not going anywhere. I don't think anyone's going to take on that price tag.
Buddy is signed through the end of 2030. So no.
Yeah. And Kreider, I mean, he's 6.5 million and he's still a good player. He's Mr. Ranger. He's a playoff performer. They're not getting rid of him. That's all smoke.
No, didn't
I
he get like 50 goals last year or 2 years ago or something like that?
I believe it might have been last year. Yeah, I can't remember. It's one of the two for sure. I think Trouba's the guy. What they get for him, I have no idea. Who takes him? I have no idea.
No, but
I
it makes the most sense in terms of what we can give up now versus what we can actually pull in a return that's actually worth something. I think the Truba thing just almost makes too much sense.
Yeah, I know. I feel like Detroit was the team. Remember that whole like thing in the off? I think it was the off season, where they're like, "Oh, Detroit, it's almost like a done deal. Like Detroit has him," and people were breaking that left and right, and then all of a sudden it fell through. Could maybe see that resurfacing. We'll see.
Prior to the Jiricek move, you could have thrown Mini in there too.
Yeah, for sure. All right, last talking point, because the rosters will be announced between now and our next recording for the Four Nations tournament. I believe those come out on December 4th, so that should be Wednesday. Per Pierre LeBrun, we're chatting Team Canada goaltending. Per Pierre LeBrun, Jordan Bennington, and Aiden Hill are expected to be two of the three goalies for Canada's Four Nations roster. It's looking like that third goalie is a toss-up between Logan Thompson, Cam Talbot, Stuart Skinner, and Samuel Montembeault. Uh, Not really sure. I can't believe this is a discussion, but I feel like Logan Thompson's definitely going to be the one. We know Joey Decord was maybe going to be thrown in there, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be eligible. I was listening to 32 Thoughts about this because he doesn't have a Canadian passport. He is not allowed to be taken on by Canada.
It's wild. I thought he did have a Canadian passport.
Maybe I have I might have the fact wrong. I listened to it today because I was trying to get some more insight on it. I believe the problem was he didn't have a readily available Canadian passport or an active passport or whatever.
That's
I don't know the term.
interesting. So I read it as, so he's born in Boston. His dad is Canadian, his mom's Swiss. He couldn't play for Canada or Switzerland because he wasn't a naturalized citizen of either of those countries, I think, or a naturalized player into their systems or something like that. But because this isn't an IAHF tournament, he could play for Canada, and then in like the Olympics, he could play for Switzerland or the United States or something.
That's interesting. I The only reason I'm remembering what 32 Thoughts said, they said he doesn't have a passport, and people are like, well, why can't he get expedited shipping? And I think what they were saying is he would have to, between now and the 4th, leave the Kraken, go to Canada to get the passport, and the Kraken are just like, no, you probably shouldn't do that. Or maybe Decord's saying that. I could have my facts wrong. I'm just regurgitating what I heard.
End all be all of this is why are you looking at Joey Decord?
I was literally just about to say, am I crazy to say I don't even think he's like fifth or sixth on the list of who I would pick if I'm
He's had
choosing
a
Team Canada?
great start to the year, don't get me wrong,
He
numbers
has.
wise, but
He has.
like so have like four other guys that I think would be I'd put
Yeah.
Montembeau ahead of him.
Yeah, I probably would too. I also don't know, like I've been seeing a lot of teams say stuff like this, and I'm kind of starting to agree, like from a Caps perspective with the LT situation. I almost don't want LT going over there because number one, he's been a bit of a band-aid his career anyway. He's had some injury issues. I'd almost rather my guy just get some rest. I mean, it's cool to root for your favorite players in this tournament, but it's ultimately meaningless. And I kind of just want all the Caps to rest up and heal up and
Ooh.
kind
I
of get
kinda
ready for the playoffs and stuff, you know?
Just want all the American Caps to play and none of the Canadian Caps to play.
Damn. Yeah, Mac, there's been some discussion on that too. How do the owners of teams feel about their guys going? I don't know. It's an interesting part, but
It is when
uh,
you think about the fact that a certain Chicago Blackhawk could also go play World Juniors again this year.
wow.
Yeah.
He wouldn't though,
No, absolutely not.
but he
There's
could.
there's no he like legally he could, but like there's no
Yeah.
chance in hell the Blackhawks allow that.
No, well, also it'd probably not. I don't even think that would be good for him. Like you just go from playing the NHL to that. It's just I don't know.
To playing kids again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally, even though he is a kid. But anyways, I'd be shocked if Logan Thompson's not the third, given what he's doing this season. I'd be pretty shocked.
Same here. It's this is interesting though. I love that there's a little bit of chaos around it. I can't lie.
Yeah, a lot of mock-ups that have been thrown out. People getting pissed off everywhere.
I saw somebody's Team Canada mock-up earlier that was like all these things about who might be the forwards, who might be the defensemen, and then under goalies, it just said whichever goalies. Like no one is happy about the options compared to what Canada's used to having. They were like, whichever ones you guys want to pick. It's
Out
not
of
much of a difference.
out of the four teams, would you say Canada has the worst goalie pool to pick from?
Oh, by far and away.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
By far and away. What the downfall of Canadian goalies needs to be studied. I mean, we've got I know he went to the finals, but we chirp him a lot. Stuart Skinner like really? Like this is what it's coming to? I mean, here's another question for you guys. Who starts? Binnington? I think he's probably
Right.
number one.
Which, like, to me, not necessarily like my choice by any means. And then you come over to the state side of things, and we're sifting between Vesna favorites for, whether it's going to be Hellebuck or Otter or whoever else. But that's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. It's I wish everybody listening could read our outlines before this because
No, you don't.
Nick, I think it's Nick, is adamant that instead of saying according to double IHF rules, he has now changed it to decording
Well, we're
to
talking about him, so it's not according, it's decording.
Joey decording to double IHF rules. But yeah, I'm pumped. We'll probably have a big reaction segment next week for the Four Nations roster, which I'm super pumped to do. Maybe that'll be a YouTube segment. If you don't follow
Yeah.
us on YouTube, go subscribe over there for sure. But that about wraps it up for the Epi besides trivia. Who has the trivia for the week?
I
Mr.
got
Nick
one.
Manella.
Give me 1 second here to pull this one up. I thought this one was interesting. You guys are definitely able to get this. It's going to be not as hard as you think. Let me put it that way.
All right.
So earlier in the episode, we talked about Jordan Binnington. You know, he's now the Blues franchise leader all time in wins. He passed Mike Liut, I think.
Yep.
So
I said Lut. I'm sorry, guys. I don't have my glasses on when I do this. Sorry.
I also don't know if I'm getting that right. That's just an educated guess, so I could be wrong. So
Lut.
yeah.
Dumb name.
Well, I mean, you know,
Yeah. Anyways.
I've heard worse. So he is now one of 4 active goalies in the NHL to lead their franchise in wins. Who are the other 3?
Does the goalie have to be playing for that team right now?
Yes,
Okay.
because they're the active franchise leader.
Is this like counting Utah? Like, is this one of those dumb ones? It's
But,
like a
like-
trick question.
But like, let's say, I don't even know if this is true, but let's say Jonathan Quick is the all-time Kings leader. He wouldn't count because he's not on the Kings.
I'll give you this. All the 3 guys are playing for their team right
Okay.
now.
All right, cool.
All right. All right.
Yeah, and I think like the Utah thing would still count towards
With
Arizona because it's the
Arizona,
same
okay.
franchise. It's not a new franchise.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Okay.
2 of these should be no-brainers. One of them is easy. You just have to think about it a little bit.
Okay.
I think I got one of them.
Hit me.
Vasilevsky.
Ding, ding. Nice and easy.
I think I might know the easy one that you just have to think about. Is it possible it's like Grubauer for the Kraken?
Yes, sir. 2 for 2.
Okay.
All right, last one.
It's probably not going to be an original 6 team, I would think.
Would it be Hellebuck?
Ding, ding. 3
There you
for
go.
3, boys. Nice little
Nice.
sweep there.
Damn. I like that. It's nice
yeah.
not spending 30 minutes on trivia where it's like me and Mac have I love when we pull these crazy ass questions and people are like, what the fuck is going on?
Hell yeah.
Good question, Nick.
Little
That was good.
underhand one for the boys, you know, knock it
Yeah.
out of the park, make
Well,
them look
one
good.
Anyway,
Wasn't like super underhand, but yeah, respectable.
that was good.
All right, well, that wraps it up for episode 236. You guys got any final notes before we head on out of here?
I do not.
Saw some wild shit the other day, boys. I was driving down the road, going to run some errands, and there were signs advertising people you could pay to hang Christmas lights on your house. And
Oh.
I thought that was the stupidest thing I've seen, I think, in this calendar year of 2024.
That is pretty stupid. Unless you guys have any further comments on that, that actually just reminded me of something that I wanted to rant about. That's super quick. What the fuck are we doing raking leaves? What are we doing? Like, they're freaking leaves, dude. Just leave them there. They'll blow away, or
It's in
I
the
don't
name.
know.
You just leave it.
yeah, there you go. There you go. I'm driving down the street the other day, and there's like a big our neighbors have like raked all these leaves into a big pile that's now just like in the street, and you have to like drive around it to like go down the street. It's also like in a parking spot technically, and it like what are we doing? We don't need to rake leaves. Why did that ever become a thing?
Yeah, that's something I had to do.
grass.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
That right there.
Okay.
That was my childhood.
Grass is gonna die anyway. So
Yeah. Also, like, have you heard of this new like exciting thing called wind?
yeah, no, it's all just gonna fucking blow away.
Yeah.
At least in Wisconsin, it is.
I don't miss that era of life. If there was
Oh,
one
no.
Freaking
one
stupid.
chore I hated the most, it was definitely raking the leaves. That
It
shit
doesn't make
sucked.
any sense. It's like cleaning your toilet. I'm gonna poop in there anyway.
I'll tell that one to my fiance.
You should absolutely clean your toilet.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll
just
see.
kidding.
I'll see how that one works.
Yeah.
It is kind of stupid though if you think about it. It's like you
That we
clean it
clean
just
where
so
we
you can
poop.
poop in it. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I had a roommate in college who was like, "Why would I clean the shower?" I was like, Do you see that black spot? That's why you clean the
Yeah.
shower."
Yeah. No, definitely understood. Well,
Well, technically you clean the shower every time you use it.
That's what he said. I was like,
that's
"Oh man."
that's boy math right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, appreciate everybody listening as always. Yeah, just thanks for listening. I don't really have much else. Go subscribe to the YouTube. Follow on Twitter/X/whatever it's called on Wednesday when we are watching NHLT on T. And we'll be tweeting about the game, giving some picks out, and should be a fun time. Without further ado,
Class dismissed.